Welcome everyone to the January 22nd edition of 2026. Actually, our first meetup of the year, because we didn't actually do an Excel one to start off the year. So we've got Reza is going to be joining us to talk about time intelligence, which is going to be great. But before we do that, of course, I just want to start by thanking the sponsors that make all this stuff happen. Skillwave Training is my training company where we teach people how to be awesome with Excel and Power BI. Excel Guru is the parent company of Skillwave and also the creator and distributor of the Monkey Tools add-in to help you build amazing business intelligence solutions and also just generally make you more efficient with Excel. The next meetups that we have coming up, I'm really looking forward to this. We have the humblest of MVPs is going to be joining us to talk about financial modeling with AI. If you haven't met Giles yet, he is quite a riot. So it's going to be a great show. Very much looking forward to it. That's going to be at our regular 9 a.m. time slot on February 5th. And then our next Power BI meetup, we have Christian Angel is going to be coming back to join us again for another round. And he's going to be talking about getting crafty with Power Query custom functions in Power BI. Good Lord, that's a pair of long titles, actually. But they should both be fantastic shows. I'm really looking forward to both of them. So don't forget to RSVP for those. If you are looking to learn how to use the Monkey Tools add-in, we have a free course that will actually get you started with this, teach you all the cool things that it actually does, what's available for free, what's available for pro trials, and all that kind of good stuff there. So, I definitely would recommend that people check that out. The URL to register for that is in the top right-hand corner. And as always, the slide decks have already been posted to the Meetup site. So if you want to go and look those up after the fact, you can certainly do so. We have a new Ask Can Anything product that has been added to Skillwave. This is one of my favorite kind of pieces that we actually run is this portion of some of the programs that I have. Basically, you get to come in and, well, as it says, ask me anything. And we've had some great stuff over the last few episodes of this one. Actually, I see Deepak. I can see you in the chat window. He's part of this stuff as well, and was asking me some really tricky questions actually in the last one, which we had a good time working through. So if you're looking for a little help on your Excel and Power BI solutions, this is a great way to get started with things. Although I will also say the Ask Anything subscription is included with a couple of our products. Number one of them, the Excel Fundamentals Academy. If you or someone on your team just needs to bone up their, get from that very basic to an intermediate level of Excel, it's a fantastic product with lots of good training and Ask Anything. And if you're already ready to step into Power Pivot and Power BI, we have our self-service BI Academy that will take you through some really, really complex stuff in order to make you amazing. This also includes our book. It includes our Monkey Tools Pro subscription, the Ask Anything sessions. I know this is the program that Deepak is part of as well. I really enjoy when people come to this one here. It's a great program and people seem to get a lot out of it. So if you're interested, you should definitely check those out. This meetup, along with all meetups, does get recorded and will be posted on the Skillwave YouTube channel. Should be up in the next 24 to 48 hours. So definitely subscribe to that. We will post on the meetup site as soon as it's available for viewing as well. And the final thing that I'm going to drop on this one before I turn it over to Joseph for today is if you are interested in coming and speaking on our stage, we would love to have you. We're always looking for new speakers, people who want to tell us cool things that they're doing with Excel, Power BI, or anything in the Power Platform stack. If you've got some things that you're thinking, I worked out how to do this, I think it's kind of cool, I'll bet you there's a lot of people would love to hear about it. So get in touch, fill out this little form right here, and we will get you on our stage. And on that note, that's my bit for today. So, Joseph, are you ready to tell us what's new in Power BI?
As ready as I'll ever be. So
Sure
why don't we jump into it? Well, thank you, Ken, and welcome everybody to the first meetup of the year, 2026. So let's start with what's new in Power BI. And as always, I start with the feature summary, which came out 2 days ago, which made me really happy because sometimes it comes out like a couple hours after the meetup when I try and present what's new in Power BI, or a few days. So we got a couple of days to look at what's new in Power BI for January. And one thing I want to just highlight before I get into some of the new features is there's big important note at the top of the blog post, just calling out that although the January desktop release started to be rolled out like 2 days ago, it may take some time for some of these things that I'm going to demo to be reflected in your version. So if you see something and you want to try it out and it doesn't quite work, it might be there, I don't know, within the week or so, just as it rolls out. So The first thing that I want to call out for what's new in Power BI this month is the deprecation of Power BI Q&A. So if you use dashboards in the Power BI service, or you use the Q&A visual within Power BI reports, like within Power BI desktop, you have 1 year to move off of this Q&A functionality, because it's being replaced by Power BI Copilot, which I'm sure will be a totally seamless and a much better experience. I've demoed this Power BI Q&A visual and functionality before, both in the service and in the Power BI desktop. So this lets you use natural language querying just to sort of have like a conversation, if you will, with your data and get answers directly in your Power BI reports. But again, we have sort of 1 year to shift your solutions off of that if you are using it in production or any of your reporting solutions, and you can switch over to Power BI Copilot, which provides a more advanced and integrated solution. And there's lots of blog posts and support on the timeline that you can follow some of the links here. So that was the first important thing to call out. I think the rest of the time, I'm going to be looking at new features in this reporting section. And the first of which made me very happy, because this was a little bit of a headache that I was running into in some of my reports, in the field parameters persist hierarchy level setting. That's a little bit of a wordy title, which is a bit of a theme for today. But I have looked at field parameters before in doing feature presentations by using the matrix visual, but also looking at what's new in Power BI. So about 6 months or so ago, we got an update to field parameters, which changed the default behavior. And it used to be, if you changed the slicer of a field parameter within a hierarchy on a matrix, it would always, when you switched, it would always collapse the matrix. And then with the change, then we had the hierarchy level persisted by default instead of collapsing by default, but there was no way to toggle between the two and for you to decide what you wanted your default to be. Now we have that ability in Power BI. In the blog post here, it outlines exactly sort of what used to be the case, what is the case now, but I think it might be easier just to jump in to Power BI and we can take a look. So if I go to this field parameter page of my report, I have a field parameter slicer here, and I have a matrix visual. And on my matrix visual, I have the parameter on the high level of the axis. So I can toggle between looking at total balance by client age, product category, or client segment. And if I expand just one level of this, in this case, client segment of the hierarchy on my matrix, I see that I have years underneath here. So I can decide to break things down by one of these 3 things in the highest level, and then years underneath that. And one of the issues that became the default behavior is if I then toggled to product category as an example, because I had years visible just expanded in one of the client segments, when I switch to product category, then it shows all product categories all expanded to years. Now, this might be okay, depending on what you have in the hierarchy and your data model. There's a pretty low cardinality in this case, with only 3 product categories and 3 years. So, going from 3 to 9 or 3 to 9 rows with subtotals isn't that big of a deal. But if you have lots and lots of years, or you have a field with individual dates underneath, you don't really want to be toggling back and forth, and then you're having to essentially calculate all of your measures for all of the dates for all of your product categories, and it can really slow your report down. So what we can do now is, if I collapse everything, we see that it's collapsed, but I can go into options, and it's a local setting for a specific Power BI report. So under report settings, all the way down at the bottom, I think we have field parameter options, persist hierarchy level. Now, I think persist hierarchy level is still the default. So what we saw here, when year is exposed and we change the field parameter, year will be exposed for everything. But instead, if we uncheck that and we go like this, now when I switch to product category, instead of it being exposed and everything by default, everything is collapsed by default, even if something is exposed. So what's nice is that we're not forced to have one or the other. We're not forced for everything to be collapsed, or we're not forced for that visibility to persist. When we switch what we select in the field parameter, we can decide depending on our use case. I still think it would be nice if we could select that by field parameter instead of by the entire report, but at least it's something that gives us a little bit more control. Moving on quickly to my next favorite feature from this month, and it's an improvement to the format pane. So I'm just going to use this card visual in the bottom right-hand corner. And we see that I've colored the labels of the measures. In this column, total balance is in pink, and my count of clients measure is in sort of a yellowy gold. So if I go to the call out values and I look under label, if I expand color, it's a little bit of a subtle change, but it does make a lot easier as you're developing reports. It's really obvious now that this pink is highlighted with sort of that green box around. Before, it was just kind of like, well, maybe it's this color, maybe it's not. It was really difficult to see exactly what color was selected for that. So the UI has improved, so we can clearly see it was the pink, and we can obviously toggle it to different colors if we want. And the other update to the color picking experience is we now have this reset to default option available for us to quickly reset whatever colors we've selected back to the default in all areas of the format pane. Previously, this reset to default was available as an option for some color formatting settings for sort of in some of the areas of the format pane. But now I believe it's available for pretty much everywhere you can pick colors, you can reset to default. So that's the call out values. But if we look at like the card border color as well, we see reset to default. So we should be, it's just a subtle improvement, a small improvement, but it makes some of the report design and report development a little bit easier to see exactly what's going on. And if I open the blog back up, there's two more quick updates that I like from this month. The first, which I think I demoed back in November, which was a new setting for the matrix visual, is if I go under values for this matrix, under options, no, where was it? It was under column headers, not values. So let's toggle that down. Under column headers and options, we had this auto size width toggle off and on. And what was new is this option resize behavior. We can either automatically size the columns to fit to the content, which it is now, or we can grow to fit the size of our visual. And so that means as we resize the visual, the size of the columns will expand to take up all the space, so we don't have any of this blank space in the visual itself, if that's what we want. Previously, grow to fit, I think, was the default behavior when this feature came out, and now fit to content has become the default behavior. So similar to field parameters, we still have the ability to control and toggle whether we want to do this grow to fit or fit to content. It's just the default behavior that switched, which is nice. And then the very last update that I want to review before passing it back to Ken and Reza is a feature that's gone from in preview to generally available. And this is the modern visual tooltips. So if I hover over my line chart here, we see that this shows part of the modern tooltip. We see on my line chart based on the x-axis, the date there. So we see that's the end of October. We see the value of my measure that's present on the y-axis. And if I had drill through or drill down or some sort of action setup, this would also appear on the tooltip here. So why don't I try to do that? Why don't I set up the page and we'll put total balance. Let's see if this works. We'll put total balance measure on drill through. So let's put that there. And if I do the tooltip now, no, that's not working. Let's see, did I miss something in setting it up? Total balance is summarized. Let's see. Let's try it once more. And if not, okay. I probably didn't set something up properly with the drill through. But what is there? There we go. It just took a second. So on the tooltip, now we have drill through available just from the tooltip. We don't have to right click on a data point or set up a button to do our drill through. Now we see the actions is right on the bottom of this more modern tooltip. And this is controlled in the format pane from properties, tooltips. We see that we can just set it as the new default. And it's this action section down here. We see that is toggled on. We can toggle it off if we don't want to see. And now we get that note saying right click to drill through. And if we do want actions, it'll come back up. There we go. A little bit of a lag, and it's actually part of the tooltip. So this was available in preview before. Now it's available. Now it's generally available. I think it is the new default tooltip. And it also comes with the ability to do a little bit more formatting as well that wasn't previously available. Like we can select the label color, value color, the drill text, and the background of the tooltip. If we wanted to do something funky like pink, now we have a nice pink, or maybe not nice, we have a pink tooltip. But with that, those are my favorite new features from the January release. So this has been What's New in Power BI for the first meetup group of 2026. And I think at this point, that's everything I wanted to cover today. So thank you everyone for hopping on a little bit early to see what's new. And I'm ready to pass it back to Ken and to Reza for the feature presentation. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks as always, Joseph, especially for your maybe not quite nice tooltip.
Exactly.
Yeah, a hot pink wouldn't necessarily be my color choice necessarily, but hey, you know what? Whatever works for the audience, right? That's what the client wants. There you go.
Your requirements are.
Exactly. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, now it is our great pleasure. This is really shocking to me, honestly, is that I now get to welcome my friend Reza Rad to the show. And what's really weird about this one is that I've actually never had Reza on our program, and we've been running for 10 years, and I don't understand how it's actually possible that has not actually happened yet. So Reza, are you ready to do a little bit of Power BI talking for us?
Yes.
All
nice
right.
to be here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. I just need to make sure that I've got you. Do you have the ability to share your screen? That's the big question.
Awesome. Right. Yeah. Great to be here with you all. And thanks for the opportunity. Yeah. We never had actually this talk in your meetup.
No,
so
I did
glad to
have
be
I
here.
did have Layla several years ago, and for some reason you seem to end up second fiddle to that. And I don't know why. Like it just doesn't seem fair. I should have had
She
you
was
both.
much
So
more active than me.
well, there you go. Any rate, welcome to the show, buddy. It's been way too long. I'm really glad to have you here, and looking forward to what you got for us today.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let me share my screen. Okay, where is this share button? And which screen is going to be? This screen, and there's my slide. Here it is. Do you see my slide?
I can see your slide. You're good to go.
Awesome. Perfect. Great. Okay. Hello everyone. Great to be with you all here, and nice to see you over this virtual channel. Some of you I might have seen, some of you I might not. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you. For me, it is morning, a little bit cloudy. It is actually 23rd of January. I'm talking to you from future. So your future is going to be cloudy. and not cold though. It is summer here, and we had quite a bit of rain this week though. Anyway, let's jump into this. So what we are going to talk about today is time intelligence in Power BI. So no Power Query related talk, although Power Query is very close to my heart. This talk is more about DAX writing calculations. Before talking about that, what is like, who is me? Who is this guy talking? If you haven't seen any of my presentations before or haven't came across my blogs, I'm Reza Rad. I worked with Power BI since it was not called Power BI. I have written some books on this subject, and I'm also Microsoft MVP regional director. If you go to our website, Red Account website, we have, I think, over 1,000 articles in Power BI and other Microsoft BI related, also Fabric related subjects. And I do consulting and training as my day job. So I work with clients, find out what is their challenges with Power BI, Microsoft Fabric, go and help them. We do have a team here that also do project work. I also deliver training as well. So this is like what I do for a living, working with Power BI and Microsoft Fabric. So that's about me. Let's jump into this session. Now, my session is normally quite a lot of demos, not much of a slide. So this is the only slide I'm going to show you. This is the flow of the demos I'm going to show you. So first, I'll start from the very basics. What is requirement for you to do time intelligence calculations? Like, you need a date table. How does this work with your calculation? How would you go and write your DAX calculations? We would also talk about the difference between the default date table and the custom date table that you might go and build it yourself. This is the method that you could use as of now. But then there is a new way of doing time intelligence calculations called calendar options, which is announced a few months ago. That is going to be the way forward. That is going to be the way that we will use in the future to do the calculations, because it is performing better. It is much more flexible. I'll explain that too. But at the moment, that option is a preview, right? So that would be the future way to go. So let's see how this is going to work. So I'll start with this Power BI file I'm opening. Now, why we call it time intelligence? Any analytics you do over a date and time field is called as time intelligence calculations, because there is a set of functions we have in DAX for this type of calculations are in the category called time intelligence. So you may call it time intelligence, you may call it date-based calculations, whatever you name it, it doesn't really matter. In this model, which is a sample model I'm using here, I have a few tables. I have a sales table. This is AdventureWorks sample data. You can download the Excel file from Radicat website. There is also like a SQL database version of it. There was actually originally a SQL database version. Then I created an Excel export of it, put it in our website. You can download it from our website for free. So this data set is about a company that sells bikes and products related to bikes, such as gloves, helmets, water bottle, things like that. So we have a sales table. We have a few other tables in here as well, products, customers, things like that. And we do have a date table. Now, before talking about that date table, I'm going to talk about what happens in your model when you have a table that has date fields in it. So when I go to my report view, and these icons apparently doesn't really look that much nice. I think this is the most update of Power BI that did that. But anyway, I'll expand my fact internet sales. And what you can see here is that, let me also enable zooming, make it better to see. Okay, here you go. So what you can see here is that if I have a date field inside my sales table or any of the tables, whenever I have a date field, I'll see this little calendar icon beside it. And if I expand it, I will see like a date hierarchy. You probably have seen, all of you have seen this structure. this is what we call as the default date table in Power BI. This means that Power BI behind the scene goes and create a date table, a calendar table for you. Because this is such an important table in date-based analytics, Power BI goes and create it by default for you. You can, of course, disable it, but this happens by default. When it happens by default, it has some good functions for it. For example, it comes with this default hierarchy of year, quarter, month, day. It does not have, let's say, your fiscal hierarchy, or it may not have the hierarchy of year, week, day, that kind of hierarchy, but it gives you like the standard hierarchy. This is very useful when you want to do slicing and dicing analysis, proof of concept type of work. Like if I want to go and build something such as like, what is my sales amount? Let's bring sales amount over here. By this date, I'll just bring that hierarchy over here and let's change it to column chart. And not only this shows me that hierarchy, but I can also go to like, that was the year level. Now it goes to the quarter level. I can go to the month level, or I can use any of these features that you use in a normal hierarchy, such as like navigating to the quarters of this year, to the month of that quarter. And you get all of this by default using this default date table. You can also go and write your calculations using this. But there is one thing you need to know, and that is for every date field in every table, there is going to be a date table created, even if you don't want to analyze that date field in your model. So I would suggest that if you don't want to analyze any dates and you are using the default date table, then just don't bring that date field, such as a Power Query, go and remove. Now, where can you see actually these date fields? The date table, you see that here I have like how many? I think about 7 or 8 tables over here, but there are more tables behind the scene. There are tables that are hidden in your Power BI semantic model. You may not see all the tables in this. Here you only see the tables that are not hidden. Analysis services, which is the basis for Power BI modeling, has this ability that you can go and build a table and hide it or unhide it. In Power BI, you don't see that option. But tables like this default date table that Power BI automatically generates, it automatically set it to hide. It doesn't mean they don't exist. It means that they are invisible from your point of view. Can you see them? Of course, you can see them if you install like a third-party tool such as Tabular Editor, Power BI Helper, any of these tools. But there is also a way to see it here. If I go to the DAX query view, this is a place that you can write your DAX queries, and it provides a result as like a table view. There is a set of functions called info functions. Info functions are functions that give you information about your semantic model. And these info functions can be tons of different things, like columns in my semantic model, tables. I would use one of these info views called info view tables. So what does this do is that it will give me a list of all tables in my semantic model. And you can actually see that I have like about how many? 19 tables in here. Although here you just see like I have 8 or 7, whatever it is. So I have more in here. And when you look at the name of the tables, you see that some of these tables are like strangely named, like this, like all of these. These are those default date tables created by Power BI automatically. And when you look at there is hidden column, like here, you can see that they are all is hidden. This is the is hidden property, or the same here as well. So this info functions is a really good way to find out that these info functions are really helpful. You can even use an info function that give you all your calculations, all your measures, expressions. Then you can use it, export it as a document. Very useful. Anyway, this session is not about info functions, so let's put that aside. So these are tables, actually. How these tables are generated. These tables are generated from the minimum date in every date field they are generating from to the maximum date, right? So let's consider this, for example. Let's say I have an order date table, an order date field. In my order date, what is the minimum date? It might be, for example, 2nd of February 2020. This would go and start from the first of the year of that particular year, and it goes to the end of the year of the maximum date. That is how it is built. Actually, you can see the expression for it as well, which is right over here. These info functions, as I said, really helpful. So here it actually shows me that expression too. Here it is. For example, this is for the birth date column. You see from the minimum birth date, it goes and pick the year of that, and then 1st of January till maximum date, it picks the year of that, and 31st of December, right? So it creates like a calendar, like a standard calendar, not fiscal calendar, based on that. It is okay. I'm not saying that this is bad. Some articles you might see, they say that, well, because it generates so many tables, it is bad. No, I wouldn't say that. Date table is not a big table. A date table for every year, you have like 365 records because there's one record per day. So for even 20 years of data, this is like 7,000 records. 7,000 records is nothing compared to a fact table that might be like millions of rows. So even if you have like 20, 30 of these date tables, I still wouldn't be bothered with the size or volume of these, only with one exception. That exception is that in some systems, let's say a CRM system, an ERP system, they usually have a date field that if that date field doesn't have any value, instead of putting blank or null in their operational system, instead of putting that, they would set a for maximum date for it. Like, for example, when there is no, let's say, modified date or whatever that date field is, they would set it as 31st of December of 9,999. And then you can imagine what date table this would generate, right? It would be like for hundreds of years. I have actually a blog about that just with a table with 3 records, it's created a Power BI file with like 25 megabyte size, because it created like a huge table. So if you have those kind of situation, I would suggest to go and remove or change those far out date to like blank or something like that. Otherwise, performance issues, I wouldn't say there's a performance issues with this, right? I can use this to go and write my DAX calculations as well. The way that I would go and write my DAX calculations using these is something like this. Let's say I want to go and write a calculation using this. So I'll go and say, let's go and bring fact internet sales order date into a table style view like this. And then I would bring the normal sales amount in here as well, right? Let's still keep it as a table. And then if I want to do something like a year to date or something like that, I would go and write my calculation like this. So I'll go and say, create a new measure. I'll make it bigger. Let's call it sales year to date with default date, right? So what we are going to calculate in here is actually using a year to date calculation in DAX. Time intelligence functions, there are a set of functions called as time intelligence functions. Intelligence functions, there are functions that does different things. Like, for example, if I want to do year-to-date calculation, there's a function for it. If I want to do same period last year, that is a different function. Parallel period, there are different functions. For year-to-date, if I start typing, there are 2 types of year-to-date functions. Total year-to-date is a simpler function to use. Dates year-to-dates will give us a little bit more flexibility. I'll use total year-to-date in this case. What it does, it gets an expression, like what am I calculating over a year-to-date period, and what is the date field. The other two parameters you see in this are inside the square bracket. Whenever you are writing a DAX expression and the function expects a parameter that is inside these square brackets, these are optional parameters. So you can skip passing these information. I'll let you know what are these later. For now, I'm just going to say what's my expression. So my expression is, in this case, sum of the sales amount, or I could have a measure for it so that I don't write sum of sales amount specifically. Then the second parameter is dates. Now, this is an interesting one. Dates. Whenever you see inside time intelligence functions, whenever you see dates with this S at the end, this means that it is looking for the date column in your date table. If you just see date, such as a start date, end date, things like that, without this S, that means it is looking for one particular date. But if you see dates with an S, it is looking for the date column in your date table. Now, in this model, as of now, I don't have my custom date table. I'm using the default date table that Power BI gives me, which is that order date. I see it as a column over here, but in reality, it is a date table. You just saw it in the info functions I used. So how can I use that? I'll start just typing it, order date, and I'll make it smaller so that you can see full expression coming up over here. So you see order date. I don't want to use order date key. That is like a numeric column. I'm not using it for here. So I'll just use order date. When I click on order date, though, you see that something comes up as a pop-up here, because order date is not actually a column. I mean, we see it as a column. In reality, it is a table. Remember, I show it to you in the info functions. It is a table. So from that table, which column do I want? In this parameter, we want the date column. So I'm going to pick this. I'll select that date, and that's it. I'm closing my total year-to-date function. So I said, go and calculate sum of the sales amount based on this date field. I know this might look strange, but when you consider this as the date table, then this is the date column from that date table. We only use this if we use the default time intelligence or the default date table. But I just want to show you that this is also working. After that, I'll show you the custom date table way. So I'll mark it as done. Let's go and bring it over here. Here is my calculation. And because it is year to date, you can see that it starts accumulating. So this value, in this case, means that it is accumulated result of these two. Or this, sorry about my drawing. This is accumulated result of all of this. And it keeps going this until end of the year. So September, October, November, and until December. You see this is still accumulating until 31st of December, and we are starting again in 1st of January. Let's starting again in 1st of January, right? So I managed to write a time intelligence DAX calculation even with the default date table. The only trick for that is to add this bit at the end of your field. And this works okay. Now, what are the disadvantages of the default date table? A default date table is good when you want to create proof of concept. Like you have 1 week, you want to show your users, your customer that this is possible. I can do it, right? Without creating a date table, you might just go and build it just fast, right? But I wouldn't recommend it in production environments because of some reasons. One, you have to be careful about that, like far out date values. The other one is, what if you want to have one date table filtering out 3 different fact tables? In that case, you wouldn't be able to do this. What if, like the third reason is that, what if you want to analyze this not based on normal calendar columns such as your quarter, month, day? You want to also bring your fiscal calculations in this. You want to do like weekly based analysis. You want to go beyond whatever is here. You want to add your let's say, your current business special dates in it, like I don't know, 25 of March is a really special date, so you need to consider that. For those requirements, or you may want to consider holidays. For any of these, you need to have your cost date table. Then the default date table wouldn't work, because default date table just have like few stand-up columns in it, right? So instead of going in each of these tables and adding extra columns in it, which is kind of quite a lot of maintenance work, what we'll do is that we'll go and create our own custom date table. How do you build the custom date table? It is a table that should have one record per day. You should not miss any of the dates. You should have all the dates, even if there is no transaction happening, for example, in Christmas, you still need to have that as a record in your date table. It should start from your minimum date values to the maximum date values. And then you should add all the columns that you would like for your slicing and dice, right? This is an example of such a date table. So when I click on this dim date, you see that I have one record per day. You see there isn't any records missing. And I have all the columns that might be used for my analysis, like the day number of the week, the day name of the week. We also have like a Spanish and French version of it. The other things, like what is the month name, what is the month number, all of these. You may even have more columns into that. Depends on what you want. You may add more columns. In a dimension table, the more columns you have, the more power you will have in your slicing and dicing. So dimension tables, it's quite normal for a dimension table to have like even hundreds of columns. There's no problem. So we go and build this date table, and then we import that into our Power BI solution. Now, how do you build this date table? There are plenty of ways. You may have a SQL script that generates this date table. I already have one version in Rad, but you can go and download it for free. You may have a Power Query script that generates the date table. I have a version of that in Radicat website. I'm sure Ken also have one in his website. There are plenty of other versions of this. You can go and download it. There is also a DAX script that you can go and create a calculated table using that. All of these methods are fine. There are pros and cons in each. Like, for example, if you use Power Query to generate date table, you may also be able to connect to some of the live APIs and fetch public holidays using that. If you do that in DAX, you cannot do it like that. So pros and cons, but from the time intelligence point of view, all of them look like a date table. Doesn't really matter how you create it. So like here, this is an example, our query script that I use to generate a date table. I normally just go and set the start date, end date, and that's about it. But it doesn't mean that you have to use that. You may already have a date table in your data warehouse. You may just go and use it, right? So once you have that date table, then you have to tell Power BI that this is my date table. Don't go and use the date table that we had before. And that is by doing this. You would go to the file, options and settings, options. And here you would first disable the default date field creation. That is done in here. When you go to data load, there are two places you can do that. You can do it in the current file, or you can do it in the global data load. If you do it in the current file, it only applies on the current file. If you do it in the global, it will apply on all the future Power BI solutions you are building using this Power BI desktop. It will apply on that. So when I go here and say, uncheck this option, this means that I don't want Power BI to create the date table for me. I'll go and uncheck it. As you see, I unchecked it. Clicking on OK. You don't even need to save your solution. Now this has changed. You can see that I have now an error in my DAX calculations, because that requires a date field in a date table that doesn't exist anymore. If I go to my DAX query view, and if I run the same expression again, the same expression that previously returned like how many records? 19 records. If I run this expression this time, I would only get 7 rows, which are the actual 7 tables. It has also the dim date, but dim date is one of the tables in my model. It's not that default date table. So this way I disabled the default creation of the date table. Now I have to go and tell Power BI that this is my date table. This is important. If you don't do this, Power BI doesn't know this is your date table. Your time intelligence calculations would show you incorrect result. This is a really bad type of error because it doesn't give you error. It shows you a result that is not correct. So it is important that you tell Power BI, this is my date table. How do we do that? We'll go to that date table. We'll click on that 3 dots in front of it. And there used to be an option, depending on your Power BI version, there used to be Power BI desktop version, there used to be an option here called mark as date table. Now that the new option called calendar option is introduced, if you upgrade to your latest version of Power BI desktop, you see this as calendar options. When you click on it, then you'll see mark as date table here. So I'm going to choose that. When I click on it, at the moment it says it is not recommended. That is because of that new function. The new function is still preview. So in reality, this is recommended as of now. In the future, when that function becomes like fully available, generally available, then that would be not recommended. So for now, I'm going to say, yep, mark it as a date table. When I mark it as a date table, I have to mention what is the date column in my date table. The only column that is full date type, right? So this is that column in this case, and save. So this configuration was for the Power BI to know that this is my date table, right? Now that I have done this calculation, I can go and do my visualization again. This doesn't work in this time because I don't have that date hierarchy. I don't have this measure values. I'm going to change my measure expression. So this was the calculation that I did that time using the default date table. Now, if I want to do it using custom date table, let's also change it to custom date table. The second parameter should be the date field in my date table. In this case, this would be dim date, and the date field name is full date alternate key in my case. It is just the name of that field that is called full date alternate key. I don't need dot date or anything like that because this is that date field. So the date field inside my date table. And that's it. Check mark. So here I don't have the hierarchy, unfortunately. So I have to bring the hierarchy to show how this is going to work. I'll go and do that. I'll go and build the hierarchy. That is one of the things also you need to consider when you are doing this this custom date table. But once you create that hierarchy, you can reuse it as many as times you want. Like, for example, I go and create a hierarchy using calendar year. So this is going to be my hierarchy. Instead of calling calendar year hierarchy, I'm going to call it calendar hierarchy. At the moment, it's just as year. I'll put quarter over here as well. And then what else we have? Like month, English month name. Yep, I'll bring that too. And then day number of month. Now, one thing about this is that English month name by default is sorted by alphabetical order. So I'll go and choose English month name and I say sorted by column, month, number of the year, so that this is sorted by this, which gives you the right outcome. Another thing that you would usually want to do over here is that you would like to select all of these. I'll go to the model view. All of these that are set as auto summarizable, because you don't want these to be summarized when you put it in a visual. And you'll go to advanced and you say summarized by none. These are some of the settings that you do once and you can reuse it as many as times, because this is the date table that you would reuse as many as times you want. I'll go back to my report view. I'll remove that order date, just the date itself. I'll bring that calendar hierarchy. Okay, this is the hierarchy that I have over here. And you see that this time my year-to-date calculation also works perfectly. So this value, for example, is sum of these two, or this is some of these all together. And same as the one you saw before, if I go all the way to the end of the year, okay, scrolled too much down. If I go to the end of the year, you will see that it restarts again in 1st of January next year, because it is calendar year to date. Now I'll show you how to do fiscal year to date as well, but this is calendar year to date so far. So a few things to consider was that when you create your own custom date table, make sure that turn off the default date table creation, because you may even have that. Like you have your custom date table, but the default date table is still there. So even though you have a date table, it creates another date table under your date table, which is like unnecessary. So turn off that. If you want to turn it off for all the new future solutions you want, go and do it for the global setting. Once you do that, mark your table as a date table. That is really important. If you don't do that, these numbers would not accumulate. It would show the same value that you have in each date. It will not give you error. It will show you incorrect number, right? And then you go and build your date table with like the configurations you want, like the date hierarchy or any of the settings you want, right? Using this, you also have some flexibility that you can apply. Like, for example, what if I want to do fiscal year to date? What if I want to do quarter year to date? I can show you that as well. Now, because we are going to create a few measures, it's better if I go and build a measure table. So I'll go and do that. I'll go and say, let's go and create a new table. A measure table is a trick we use normally to put all our measures in one place. Easier to find. We create like a blank table. And to create a blank table, I'm going to call it also measures tables. To create a blank table, I would use this. This is table constructor, as we call it in DAX. Whatever you write inside it, it will be the table content that you want to create. If I want to create an empty table, I would just type blank here. So I'm creating a table with blank values, blank data. It always have a column. You see it has a column called value, but there's no data, right? And this is my measure table. This is a table that I want to use for all my measures. Then I'll move my measures over here. So that measure I've created, this one, I'll go and say the home table for that is going to be the measure table. Now in here, when you look at it, you see I have my measure over here. What if I want to do quarter year to date? Let's go and do that. I say, let's create a new measure. I'm going to call it sales quarter to date. This would be quarter to date, total quarter to date. The expression is sum of sales amount. The date field, similar to the other one, is full date alternate key, right? So as simple as that, you just change the function. Total year to date was the one we used. Now we have total quarter to date. So once I have this, now I can also mark it as currency if I want to, but format it as currency, but it's okay for now. Let's bring it over here. So I'll go and bring that one over here as well. I'm going to remove the day from here because it's easier to see it over the month. So let's remove the day over here. And here is like my monthly year-to-date value. So you see that July, August, these are sales of every month. Year-to-date accumulates all of these until end of December. Restarts again in January, whereas my quarter-to-date accumulated until end of each quarter. You see September, and then restarts again in October. Goes all the way till end of December, restarts again over here. So it's just as simple as that I got my quarter-to-date calculation. What if I want to do like same period last year? Like, for example, I want to compare, what is this? Let's say November 2006 sales, like this value. I want to compare it with November 2005. Do we have a November? Yeah, here it is. So I want to compare that with this and calculate year over year variance. It might be increase, decrease. I want to calculate the percentage. How does something like that work? So I can show you that too. I'll go over here. I'll create another measure. Let's call this one sales, same period last year. Some people call it sales, SPLY. Well, that also works. I just prefer to put the full title over here. Now, you have to, like for time intelligence calculations, you have to go and search for these time intelligence calculations in DAX function reference, DAX function libraries. You can also use any of the websites that our friends at SQL BI has generated. But it's a really simple search. Like, for example, for same period last year, there is actually a function called same period last year. How do you use these functions? It is first important to know what is this function. Is it a tabular function or a scalar function? I have a blog and video explaining the difference between these two. A scalar function returns one single value, whereas tabular function returns a table for you. Same period last year, when I select it, it tells me that it returns a set of dates. It does not return a single value. It returns a set of dates. So it is a tabular function. It returns a table for me, right? What is the input of this function? It asks for dates with an S. That means the date field in my date table. That I know that. That is full date alternate key, right? So same period last year of this. Is this the correct result to calculate same period last year? No, because this is giving me a table. What this table is going to be, let's say, for example, if I'm in November 2025, this will give me the whole month of November 2024, the same period last year, as a table, starting from 1st of November, ending at the end of November of that year. That is not sales. This is just a table full of date values. I need to calculate sales over this table. So you need to have some DAX skills to go over and do this calculation. One of the simple functions we can use to do this is calculate. I would say, well, calculate. What am I calculating? Sum of the sales amount. That is the expression. And then the filter, the second parameter of this. The filter for that is this. So I'm saying that go and calculate sum of sales amount, but not for the current period. Do this calculation for same period last year. So same period last year acts like a filter over here. When we are in November 2025, we are saying that go and calculate sales amount for same period last year. Same period last year is November 2024. So this is going to calculate that for that. Right. That is how you should play with these time intelligence functions that are tabular. A lot of these time intelligence functions are tabular. They return a table that you would use as a filter inside your calculate expression. You could also use SumX. You could use other functions that also accepts filter. I showed you the calculate version, right? So I'm going to say check mark. Let's go and see this. So I'm going to add same period last year over here. Okay, as you can see, make it bigger. As you can see, for the first few months, I don't have any same period last year because there was no, for example, June 2005, we don't have any June 2005. We don't have any March 2005. This data started from July 2005, right? But for example, when I look at this, October 2006, this is the sales of October 2006. The same period last year of that gives me this value, which is equivalent of October 2005. So these two are the same value, right? So using this, I have in one row, I have this period sales, same period last year sales. And then I can calculate variance. I can say this versus that percentage. And those are simple. Those are not really time intelligence calculation. I can do it like this. I can say sales year over year variance. That would be, let's say, this year sales, which is sum of sales amount. Now I should have created the measure for this. I was lazy. I didn't do that, but I'll do that. So sum of sales amount minus same period last year value, right? Bringing that over here. Okay, you can see that here. It gives me this variance, but it also gives me the variance when there is none. You can change that. You can put an if statement saying that if there is no sales same period last year, don't do the calculation, things like that. I'm skipping all of those details for now. Let's say I just want to get the percentage for now. Let's do that as well. So I'll say sales year over year percentage, and that is going to be whatever that variance is, divide by same period last year. Now, instead of using divide like this, we prefer to use divide as a function, because when you do this divide, you also need to consider, is it divide by zero happening or not? It might give you infinity results. So we normally prepare to use divide function like that. This would have three operators. The third one is what happens when divide by zero happens. If you don't provide that result, the result is blank. So at least it doesn't give you infinity error, it gives you blank. So I'm going to use that, making it percentage 5. Going and bringing that over here as well. That would be this. So as you can see, this gives me the percentage variance, which I can put it in a chart or something like that and see the result. You see that we also have like a total in here. That is because total in Power BI visual, such as matrix or table, is not really sum of the values above. Total is when you do that calculation without any filters. So if you don't want that, you can turn it off in the visual sections, or you can write your DAX expression using functions such as isFilter that would say if it is filtered by any of the values, like the filter context here, show me the result. If it is not, don't show me the result. That is also another way you can play with the filters. Okay, now I explained all of these because I wanted to get to this last part, which is the most important part. This is the part that we are talking about what is new. Everything I told you so far is what we use right now. Like my customers at the moment in production, they are using this method. We have our own custom date table. They'll go and turn off time intelligence so that the default time intelligence, so that the default date table does not create. Then we'll go and write calculations like what you saw over here. We'll go and write these calculations and it works perfectly for them, right? You mark your date table as date table and that's it. This is the method as of now. A few months ago, Microsoft team worked on a new way of doing this calculation. That was mainly because of two reasons. One was performance. Like this is still performing good, but you can improve the performance by the way that the table column, the table values are scanned. The other one, which was most important, was the flexibility. For doing this kind of calculations, what if you want to work on a special calendar, a very special calendar? Let's say in finance scenarios, we have calendars that are like 454 calendars, 445 calendars, a calendar that the fiscal year does not start 1st of July or 1st of October or 1st of April. It's not just like that. It's not just simple like that. It may start the second Monday of July every year. And that second Monday of July might be different every year, right? Or the first Monday of August, right? So that type of calendar is different. Of course, you'll need to create it using a specific script, and there are Power Query scripts or SQL scripts that generates that. But then how your calculation works based on that type of time intelligence calculation, and that is important. So I'm going to show you that in another example. So I'll open this one, like the cooking class. I have built it before. It's not a complicated solution. It is just like two tables. One is a date table. The other one is a sales table, right? So I'll go and say wait for this to come up. Here it is. So as you can see, I have a date table and a sales table, right? Not much complicated. These two, of course, has relationships with each other. Now, what we do with this is that this date table is like a normal date table, right? Nothing special about it, right? Of course, the date table is created using a script. This script might have a special start of fiscal year or something like that. That's okay. In this date table, we do have columns for fiscal year, fiscal quarter, fiscal month, all of those kind of things that you want, right? So you'll go and create your date table using this. It might be a script. In my case, it is actually using a script. It is coming, if I go to transform data in Power Query Editor, it is coming from a Power Query script. So I'll show you that over here. Did I click? Yeah, one more time. This. So this is coming from a Power Query script like that. I specify the start date. I also specify what is the start of fiscal year in here, right? Now, this is a simple script. It is not a 445 calendar because it just considers like what month is the start of fiscal year. But if you have a script that generates 445 calendar, the outcome is the same. You'll have a date table like this, and then you want to use it for your date and time-based calculations. The way that it works is that we go to setting here and we'll go to calendar option, exactly as we did previously for mark as date table. This time, however, we do not mark it as a date table. And that is why I said to you that when you go here, you see it's not recommended because this is the new way, right? So in the new way, we do not mark it as a date table, right? So many different ways. In the new way, instead of doing this, we'll go and create a calendar. Now, what is a calendar? A calendar is a set of columns from the date table that you go and specify, and you say, this is my particular calendar. Like, for example, if I want to create a fiscal calendar, it would look like this. I'm going to call it fiscal calendar. Example. I would go and say, what is the year column in my calendar? Because it's a fiscal calendar, so I would say year column comes from the fiscal year. Where's fiscal year? Okay, here it is, fiscal year. And then I would go and add another category. Let's say quarter of the year. Quarter of the year comes from fiscal quarter. And when you click on each of these, it actually tells you what are the sample of that. Like, for example, if I want like, for example, month of the year, you see that it also gives you an example. This could be January, this could be month numbers, things like that, right? So I could go and select this as well. And I say, this is fiscal month. So you go and build like this. Associated column is more like a label column associated with it. You can use it. It's optional though. So once you go and build it, you can validate it will check that if you have the right data to support it, right? I'm not going to save it right now because I already have created this calendar. Here is that calendar I created. If I show you, you see it is pretty much exactly what I showed to you. Now, here is interesting thing that in one date table, you can have as many as calendars you want. You may have a fiscal calendar. You may have a standard Gregorian calendar. You may have a different calendar. You can have 10 different calendars or more, and nothing stops you from creating these calendars, right? Calendar options, actually. So once you create these calendar options, as I said, we don't mark it as a date table. We'll just go and create calendar options. Once we build it, then we'll go and write our DAX expressions. How our DAX expressions looks like, this is one example of that. So when I'm doing year to date, let me make it bigger. Let me put some line breaks here so that you can see how this expression is different from the one that we created before. So this is the same total year to date function that I used before. In the previous one, I said sum of sales amount. In here, I mentioned the date field in my date table. That was how the previous method works. Here, you don't need to do that. Here, you just mention the calendar option. And when you start typing it, you'll see it over here. Like if you want to do it based on the standard calendar option, you'll choose it over here. If you want to do it based on fiscal calendar option, you'll see it over here. So you'll just mention the name of that calendar option that you have created, which was the one that we built over here, right? You see fiscal or standard, just like that. And this makes this calculation works based on that. Not only for year to date, it works for pretty much all your time intelligence calculations, just like that. This also increases the performance because the way that they scan the date table is changed, and it is performing much faster. So in this case, when I go to here, in my case, the first of fiscal year is actually August. You see from August, this starts doing the year-to-date calculation. Year-to-date standard is like here, it is accumulating these two together. Because it is a standard, it restarts at end of January. Whereas here, my fiscal, this is end of the year, like July is end of the year. August is the start of the year, so it's start accumulating in here. If I go and change the start of the year, like I would go and say, come here in advanced editor, the start of fiscal year is not month 8, which is August, it is month 9, which is September. Of course, I have to do a refresh or close and apply, which would do refresh as well. And then we'll see how this would change over here. So this time the accumulation should happen. So here you see that July and August are still part of the same fiscal year. Accumulation of the values happens here. So this is actually accumulated values of these two, but then it restarts. And here, the new fiscal year starts and it ends over here, which is end of, what was that? August or September? End of August. Yeah, because September is the start of the new year, right? So this was a simple date table, but if it was 445 date calendar table, all of those dates would still work. The main trick, as I said, is to go and create those calendar options. And that's it. So you'll need to have a date table with the columns related to the fiscal values that you want to analyze. This is going to be the way forward. So in the future, whenever this becomes generally available, this would be the main way to calculate time intelligence calculations. It is simpler. Would it come to Excel at some point? I'm pretty sure it would come to Excel at some point as well. I don't have any timelines, unfortunately. Is it a better way to do that? Of course, a better way because performance is better, flexibility is better. At the moment, though, this is a still pretty. I don't recommend you to go and use it right now in your solutions. I would still suggest that method I showed you using mark as date table, right? So that was pretty much everything I wanted to go on through. Let's put this slide up and go through any questions that we have. Okay. You can also turn on your mic if you have a question.
Yeah, Reza, I don't see any questions in the chat, but if anybody does have a question, as Reza says, I mean, please unmute and ask away. I will say, Reza, on the side of the Excel thing, because I mean, that was obviously my comment. I don't anticipate that it's going to come back to Excel. The analysis services engine that Power Pivot uses is still way behind what Power BI is, and I just don't see them revving it. It's too complicated. So every time I see one of these new DAX changes, it just makes me cry because you know, it would be nice, but unfortunately,
it would be nice for sure. Yes,
it's just so sad that they've drifted, right? Because I mean, you know, it's such great stuff. So, Goldberg, I see you have a question. If you want to unmute and ask, fire away.
Sure. Yeah. First of all, thanks for the presentation. It was great. So I have a kind of it might be a little bit of a complicated question. But one of the challenges that I have is to provide multiple calendars to the user when they want to be able to toggle between two calendars. And I've tested out different ways for it. And one of them was to use a switch function within the DAX itself to say, use this calendar if the user selected peaceful, for example, or the other one. And one of the other ways that I've tested was to append two calendars and use a bidirectional relationship with the enterprise date table. So just wanted to know, like, what is the best way to provide that? Because I'm still facing performance issues with large data sets.
If we use this new method of calendar options, this of course gives you this ability to put it in your DAX expression. Now you just need to make that parameterized. And in DAX, we can do parameterization using what if parameters. There are two types of it, numeric field parameters. If you use field parameter, and then the value of your field parameter be those like fiscal or standard or all types of parameters, then what happens is that you could use that field parameter as the slicer inside your page. The change of that would give you the value that changes your DAX calculation. So by changing that, you'll get the result changed.
Yeah.
But this works with the new method only. The old method, of course, didn't have this calendar options. With the new method, it's quite simple to do.
Got it. So we still need to change the DAX and like do some switch or if function within the DAX. So my question is there any way to avoid that?
It changes by parameter. So you don't really need to go and manually change anything because you create that field parameter. The result of that field parameter comes inside, for example, your total year-to-date function. And that changes things automatically. When your user go and select something, you'll see it over here. You'll just need to play with your slicer in a way that make it single select only so that they cannot select multiple options so that it doesn't make that DAX expression wrong.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Cool. Any other questions that anybody wants to ask? Feel free to throw your hand up and ask away. Outside of that, if we don't have any other questions, Reza, thanks for coming. I'm still shocked that it's taken us this long to get you here, but it's great to see you again, and I really appreciate you coming and doing this for us. Thanks so much for being part of it, and we'll have to make sure that it's not so long. I guess it's if we have you again, let's try and get you done in not the too distant future. How about that?
Thank you.
There you go.
Really appreciate the opportunity.
Great presentation. Really appreciate it. All right. I don't see any questions coming in on this one here. So I think what we'll do is we'll wrap up for the day here. Reza, I'm sure you've you want to go walking and looking at the, it's Pohochikawa trees, right? Is that right?
Oh yeah. That's
yeah. It's the beautiful trees in bloom in New Zealand right now. Thanks everyone for coming. Really appreciate that. And, Reza, great presentation. Really appreciate seeing you again, bud. We will get this up and onto YouTube within the next 24 to 48. And don't forget that the next couple of meetups are available for RSVPs. We'll hopefully see you all soon. So till next time, folks, thanks again.